This is the second part of today's lecture, and we're now going to start talking about the Texas political culture. What is political culture? Well, politics are influenced by political culture, so we really want to get a good handle on what political culture is. And you know by the topic here that it has something to do with regions of the country, perhaps has an influence on what political culture is. Political culture is shared beliefs and values pertaining to the role of politics and government in the lives of its citizens. So political culture is the shared beliefs and values pertaining to the role of politics and government in the lives of its citizens. Political culture is concerned with balancing liberty versus order. That is, how much freedom do you have versus how much control does the government have? It's also concerned with liberty versus equality. How much freedom do you have versus how much do other groups have access to resources? And political culture is also concerned with democracy in general. So, what is the political culture in Texas? You can probably make some guesses about this. But Texas political culture stresses individualism and conservatism. Texans, a large portion of Texans believe that government's purpose is to maintain a stable society, but it should interfere as little as possible in the lives of Texas, and across the nation too, the lives of people. Texas culture also stresses that we support personal politics and we distrust political parties. So there's a sense of individualism, and maybe this is changing a little bit as people align themselves more with the Republican parties, but we also see other factors and players like Ron Paul, who also from Texas really show a fierce independent, conservative but independent streak. So Texas political culture has been influenced by historical and present-day experiences. We're the product of what has come in the past, which is why we study history first before we begin to get into the nitty-gritties of politics. Some of the factors that impact Texas political culture are the general Southern conservatism that permeates throughout the South of the United States, combining also Old West individualism, the sort of you have to, out on the prairie, you have to make it on your own. We're also influenced by the Hispanic culture because of the large percentage of Hispanic citizens. We're influenced by northern migration, many people coming into the Sun Belt area looking for work. Other influences include immigration to our state, increased urbanization in areas such as here in Houston, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, communication, and education. The politics of geography is, when we're going to start looking at how the land itself influences our political culture here. So let's look at the state of Texas as a piece of land. First of all, its size, very large. 267,000 square miles of territory, making it second only to Alaska. Texas has the nation's longest highway system, naturally. And there are 5 distinct geographic regions within Texas. Of course, you've got the North, the South, East Texas, West, and Central. Congressional resolution has created a fact that Texas was admitted to the Union, but also provides that up to 4 states in addition to the state of Texas could be created from Texas. And public land in Texas is owned and controlled by the state rather than the federal government, which is a little kind of instructive a little bit about our attitude towards the federal government. And that may be where some of the misconception came in, where we believe that we could become a separate nation. That's not true, but we do have particular autonomy that other states don't enjoy. And part of that is the fact of the sheer size of the state and the peculiarities of our entering the Union. So let's look at some natural resources, and remember, we're trying to look at these in terms of how does this affect our political culture. The soil and climate of Texas, well suited for agricultural development. We've got wheat, cotton, rice, corn, sorghum. We also have a lot of mineral resources, of course, oil and gas, which is recently having a large impact in our state. Natural gas is having a huge resurgence. Sulfur is also located here. Crushed stone, Portland cement, salt, common clays, gypsum, talc. All these things are natural resources. Texas has cultural regions as well. And this is in where that there's a certain political culture, subculture within each of these cultural regions. So you have your East Texas, where the social and cultural extension of the Old South is really what identifies this area. It is sort of a combination of Texas and the South. It is largely rural. It's biracial. We still have towns that are largely segregated in this area. It's really a throwback in time. The area is typically dominated by old families whose wealth is based on real estate, banking, construction, retail. And it is also an area that is experiencing a lot of migration to the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Houston for employment. Then you have the Gulf Coast area, which was developed with the discovery of oil near Beaumont in 1901. Shipping's very important here. And this is the area where we see a lot of investment from outside the state. So this might make it a little bit more than other places in the state, a little more cosmopolitan. That is to say, it's a little more connected to the world. There was an energy crisis in the 1970s, and this promoted a boom in the Houston area and all along the Gulf Coast, the East Coast here, during the 1970s. We are also, and this is the region, of course, we're in, so when I say we, I'm talking about the political culture specifically here. We're influenced by immigration from East Texas, Asia, Mexico. This region is becoming more urban than it had been in the past. And like the East Texas, we have a social and economic elite, but ours is from new money, from areas of oil, insurance, construction, land development, banking. The economy of the East Coast, the Gulf Coast, was dramatically impacted with the collapse of the oil economy in the 1980s, forcing this region of Texas to have to diversify more in other areas. Let's move on to the third Texas cultural region, South Texas. It developed a ranchero culture similar to the feudal system in Spain. Creoles were social and economic elite in this area, and Anglos were not significant until after the Texas Revolution. There's still a large amount of ranches owned by old families, and now a lot of corporations. This area produces a lot of citrus and vegetables, and of course these require a lot of labor, which is obtained through increased immigration from Mexico. And of course economic and social and political chaos south of the border in Mexico has led to a lot of immigration, both legal and illegal, and of course places South Texas right in the heart of the current debate over immigration here in the United States. We have the Southwest Texas, influenced by Mexican American. There's a Roman Catholic culture, and primarily the economy is still tied in with livestock. The German Hill Country, which was settled by East European immigrants, including Germans, Czechs, Poles, Norwegians. The area is primarily farming and ranching. It is very socially conservative and is really the stronghold of Texas republicanism. Will be found in the central part. West Texas, which is sort of in this area, this map isn't exactly aligned with what I'm trying to show you here, but it's the best I could find. West Texas was settled by Anglos after defeating the Apache Native Americans. Southern traditions, including Protestant fundamentalism, throughout the area. There are few African Americans, and only recently Mexican Americans are migrating to that area. Again, it's like the Hill Country, it's socially conservative, a lot of Bible Belt fundamentalism there. Politically, over the last several years, they are becoming increasingly Republican. They had been conservative Democratic up through perhaps the 1990s, but we see the trend moving away from that. Largest oil production there is near Midland and Odessa, and agriculture and ranching also remain important. This West Texas. Now we're going to move on to the Panhandle. Midwest farmers settled there after the railroad lines ran through there. Farming is still big in the Panhandle, Midwestern in character and institutions. This is the kind of prototypical Texan cowboy kind of area. Conservatives lean towards republicanism rather than Southern Democratic principles. So by now, in the Panhandle, we're far removed from the East Texas alignment with Southern Democratic principles. And religiously, the people of the Panhandle are largely Protestant. Okay, moving on, we have North Texas, which is a buffer between East and West Texas. And so we're seeing this right here. It borrows from both of these regions, and Dallas became a rail center, which promoted commercial development in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And because of the Dallas-Fort Worth cities, it's kind of a more of a cosmopolitan attitude there than in other areas. And there's a region some scholars are looking at as Central Texas, bounded by Houston, Dallas-Fort Worth, San Antonio, kind of a triangle there. And it's kind of considered a melting pot of Texas. So you'll find in this Central Texas area a little bit of all.